Okay, now we're heading west to meet Janet and Juliette. Juliette is from France and has come to England to study English, and Janet is studying French and business.
Well, my boyfriend's mother is an English teacher in Nantes, where I come from, in France, and she's got a partnership with a business school here. So my boyfriend was going to go study here anyway. So I applied, I sent all my details here, and they agreed to take me. And I started in my first year of bachelor here, and I liked it, and it worked pretty well, so...
Why do you want to learn English?
Well, I love learning new languages, you see. It's really, a way of discovering new things. When you're curious by nature, like I am, I think, well, learning a new language is the perfect way, to sustain your curiosity and all these things.
Would you say that learning a language is difficult?
I mean, it depends if you are, very motivated or not, if you've got a good teacher as well. But it's not that hard. The beginning is a bit hard because you're discovering something new. It's like everything else,
Janet, what would you say to that?
Like she said, if you have the motivation and it's something you want to do, it's fine, because you're there, you come into the class and, all right, do you know what, I'm determined, this is what I signed up for, this is what I want to do, then I will do it. It's like any other course.
Would you say it's all about grammar, or are there other things to it as well?
Just the beginning, you have a bit of grammar, of course, because you have to, look at structure, you have to build sentences, so obviously you need a bit of grammar.
As Julie said, like in the beginning, they teach you, like, the grammatical verbs, the basics, so that when you go outside to, to the world and you want to talk to someone, you know what tenses to use. Although if you're a first timer, it might sound wrong, but to the person you're speaking to, they understand and they're like, oh, is this what you're trying to say?
So Janet, you're interested in a career in international business. Surely the language of international business is English. Why do you think it's important to study French?
It's a way for you to not only learn about other cultures, but in terms of business, you can advance your careers, because companies love people who have a language. And as a person, increases your communication skills. So I think languages are quite important for anyone.
It's not just like actually studying the language and the grammar. You do a lot about culture and history and films and all that kind of stuff.
To be able to speak a language, you learn about the grammar and how to speak correctly, how to present yourself to people, how to communicate and learn about cultures.
I used to be scared to sort of, go into a shop and ask someone for something or ring up for a takeaway or a taxi or whatever, but now I'm perfectly confident because I've done it in French.
Now we're heading to meet another two language students, Laura and Lauren. Laura, what do you want to do after university?
I'm actually going into a job in publishing, and I'm hoping to use more the skills I learn on this degree, such as giving presentations and writing out reports and so on. I've always wanted to go into publishing and perhaps work producing language materials for schools. In this first job, I'll be working with a linguistics publisher, which is an academic publisher, which is furthering my interest in linguistics. And in this job, I'll get to work in lots of different departments. I should think that we've got academics who work right across the world, and I shall hope to meet them and greet them and perhaps practice my French and German again.
Isn't English the international language of business?
Well, English might well be the world language of business, but in fact, when I was in Germany, I had a really good friend who was from Hungary, and she did not speak English, and so our language of communication was German. And had we not spoken German, I would not have met one of my best friends. In fact, we once went into a shop together, and the German assistant did automatically speak to her in English, and she couldn't respond in English, so she then started using her German again.
Lauren, was it scary going abroad for a year during your degree?
It seemed at first, just because I didn't move away to go to uni, and so I'd stayed at home my entire life, and then suddenly I had to just up sticks and move abroad and live on my own. And I was scared, but it was a good kind of scared, it really was. As my French tutor said before we went, sort of every challenge is good. You learn more about yourself and how you deal with situations, and it's just an experience that you just cannot exchange for anything.
Doesn't everyone speak English?
Of course not. That really irritates me, the stereotypical English person on holiday, just like, do you speak English? I want this. Just speaking louder is not going to make them understand you. The minute you can start to speak to somebody in their own language, they immediately warm to you, whereas if you're going to speak at them loudly in English, you're going to do nothing to help yourself.
Do you think the only career for people with languages is teaching?
No, that's certainly not true. When I was on my year abroad, I worked in a school in France, and although I thoroughly enjoyed working with the children, it was definitely not for me, and nor is translation. I studied maths at A-level, and this really complements my languages. Had I wanted to go into a big business such as banking or make lots of money, it's quite possible that a big bank such as Santander might demand that you speak a bit of Spanish.
Which languages do you recommend?
Well, I've chosen the languages that I was offered at school, so that's French and German. And I do think it's really important to speak 2 foreign languages because, for example, big organisations such as the EU demand that you speak 2 foreign languages as well as your mother tongue.
Can languages help your career prospects?
You can go anywhere with languages, so as long as I'm working with them, I'm not going to care. I would say that working with tourists is probably going to be something that I'm going to concentrate on. And Laura mentioned banks earlier. All the sort of global institutions will need languages. One of my best friends is a nurse, and she often says to me when we meet up, we could have done with you today because we had some French people in or we had some German people in, and I had to say we need to test this and we need to do this and this is why we need to do it. And of course if you can't explain it to them, then that's a really worrying situation, and you need someone who can speak their language and reassure them. You need languages in absolutely every aspect of life.
I went to Spain for 2 years because I enjoyed my first year abroad that's compulsory as part of the university degree so much. I asked if I could stay for a second year. It was a completely different lifestyle, just the people are so different, and even in the timetables of how they eat their dinner and their tea in comparison to ours, it just sets up the day completely differently.
I've loved languages right from the very beginning. Right from my very first French lesson at high school. I never believed that I would get to university, that I'd managed to complete a degree in languages, but here I am.
What sort of work did you do whilst you were in Spain?
I was teaching in a school, and I helped them set up the bilingual project. So I had to teach the teachers, I had to translate their syllabuses and some of their course materials, as well as teaching classes to the students aged from 11 to 20.
You went in an area where people spoke a lot of English. How did you find that?
It was in Andalusia, which has its own regional dialect. So it was quite different than the Spanish I was used to, but everyone was very accommodating and were patient with me. When I couldn't understand something, they'd try and explain. So yeah, I fitted in pretty much straight away. They were very accepting of me.
What sort of things did you like doing in Spain?
Well, I was teaching for 12 hours a week in the school. I then did private classes for adults and children. And then at the weekends, we went for coffee, we went out for tapas to eat, and we went to all the festivals in Andalusia, the numerous ones that they have.
Did you fit in with the Spanish people?
When I arrived, they're obviously used to the Spanish people with their quite dark skin and brown hair, and I arrived with my pale skin and freckles. It was like I'd come from space.
Kirsty, what did you do on your year abroad?
I was a teaching assistant in a bilingual Spanish secondary school. The kids all had lessons in 2 languages. I really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Tell me where you stayed when you were in Spain and what you did.
I lived with a Spanish family while I was over there, and being in that Spanish environment, I improved so much with my language. Me and my friend who I met over there, we did a day trip to Bilbao, for example, and to Oviedo, and just saw some of the other places in Spain. It was really interesting.
What will languages do for your future?
Maybe I will go to Spain and teach in Spain in a few years. Who knows what the future holds?
We've met lots of interesting people, student ambassadors who've learned many different languages. Learning languages is great fun. Once you've mastered the basics, you can communicate with people in their own country, learn about new cultures and have some fantastic new experiences. With languages you have a wide choice of careers. There are so many opportunities. You could go into business, banking and finance and insurance, the fashion industry, media or translation. You could work for the health service or the other public services. You could work for local or international government, or you could go into teaching. The world really is your oyster.